Good evening. This is Rachel with Infused Meadows, and tonight I'm making chicken and rice soup. So I thought, bring it along. Maybe somebody will like the recipe. Maybe even make it. Just saying. Okay, so I wanted to show you what all I have, and then I will try my best to keep this one short since the Canon video from this morning was a two-part and kind of long, but it's for those that honestly, if you wanted to know how to can, that's why I did the video the way I did it, was to try to walk through every step. Okay, but we're not on Canon, we're on this. So what do I have? I have 2 quart jars or 8 cups of my home canned chicken stock. I do stock so that I can add salt. Each quart, because I canned it up, has 1 teaspoon of salt already in it. I have some of my dehydrated broccoli, so if you want to use fresh, you're going to use about a cup of fresh broccoli. In this bowl, I have a combination of things. If you can see it, this is all of my dehydrated stuff that I'm adding. So I'll tell you what I'm adding, and if you're going along with me and so many others and you're dehydrating, then hey, you'll have both measurements, okay? So if you're not, you'll know what to do fresh-wise. So I'm giving this just a little bit of time to soak. By a little bit, I mean it's been in here for maybe 30 minutes. And that's because the soup won't take too long to cook. Roughly 30 to 40 minutes. And so that's why I'm giving the dehydrated stuff kind of a jump start. Broccoli, however, does not need that jump start. It comes back so fast that it's perfectly fine not being pre-soaked. So in this bowl, I have 1/4 cup of dehydrated mushrooms or 1/2 cup of fresh. I have a tablespoon, we're going to say ish, because it was a very heaping tablespoon of my dehydrated and chopped celery. So I would add, we'll say 3 tablespoons, or go ahead and go for 4 or 1/4 cup of celery. Or if you just want to start out with a 1/2 teaspoon of celery powder. I personally do not like celery powder from the store, but you do you, okay? Also in this, I have a 1/2 cup of dried carrots, or you can use 1 cup of fresh carrots. I believe that's all I have in there. Right here, I have 1 cup of onion. I've already chopped that up. It's good to go. I have 2 chicken breasts. I have it's basically a tablespoon of garlic that I chop garlic up and then put it in an ice tray and put that in the freezer. And then I go through and I pop them out and I put them in a container. So as long as your ice tray is right, 1 ice cube, or in this case a garlic cube, is the equivalent of 1 tablespoon. I will be adding seasoning to this as well. I also have 3 tablespoons of flour. This is for my seasoning mix. And now let's talk about the seasoning mixes. So the spices that I'm going to put into this bowl will be a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 3/4 a teaspoon of thyme. Don't heat that. Thyme can be kind of strong, so I wouldn't heat that one. A 1/2 teaspoon of dried parsley. That was my water. A 1/2 teaspoon of paprika. I usually add just a pinch of cayenne to this, but you do not have to. 3/4 a teaspoon of salt. Now, if you're not using hand canned or low sodium, then start out with a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then that way you can adjust. Because we've discussed, in order to take out too much salt, you'd have to drop a potato in there. And so let's try to avoid having to do that. You're going to also add a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. Now I grind mine and put it into this, and then when it's out, I grind more. But you do it however you want to do it, okay? So that's what we have that's going to go into that. Now, I do not cook my rice in the same pot as my soup. Here's why. I want this soup to last my husband and I at least 2 nights. So that's why I'm doing 8 cups of broth. Because as this cooks the chicken, because the chicken's going in raw this time, and then I'll pull it out later and I'll shred that and put it back in. So that will reduce as it's cooking. And so I do the rice separate so that way it doesn't set in that soup, overnight in the refrigerator, and it will drain every bit of the liquid out of your soup. And then all you're left with is a very dry vegetable, chicken, and rice mixture. So to avoid that, I'm going to do 3/4 a cup of rice, which will make 1.5 total rice because I'll be adding 1.5 cups of water to the pot. I've shown you before how I do my rice. So I don't think I'll include that in this video. I'll include little things, but I'm hoping not to make this too long. So there's the rundown of what I have, and then I will bring you back. I've gone ahead and put 4 tablespoons of butter into this pot. 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup. And then into my small pot, I've gone ahead and put 1.5 cups of water. Now, for those of you that are curious, okay, 1 cup, 1 U.S. cup is 8 ounces, 8 fluid ounces. So a half cup is 4 fluid ounces, okay? 4th cup, 2 fluid ounces. All right, so hopefully that helps to make, a little bit of use of measurements. Okay, I'm going to get this melted, and as soon as it's melted, I'm going to add my onions in. As soon as the onions are melted, goodness, as soon as the onions are translucent, I'm going to sprinkle in my flour. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and get those spices into this bowl that I told you about earlier, and we'll be back. Alright, so my onions are cooking, and they're almost translucent. So I'm going to go in with that flour I showed you earlier. That's 3 tablespoons. And we want to stir that in. Like I said, this is the easiest way to make sure that you don't get any clumps, which is why I'm not using dehydrated onions for this recipe. Because I'm using the flour to help thicken it up. Not too thick. It won't be a stew. Now that my flour is in there, I'm going to go in with that spice seasoning mix that I told you about and basically toast these spices. And that helps, really enhance the flavors of everything. You just want to move things around so that nothing burns. And if a few things stick to the bottom of your pan, that's okay. Because we're going to be pouring in that chicken broth, and that will help you to deglaze your pan at the same time that you're adding it and thickening up with your flour. Okay? That is at a boil. Let's go ahead and turn that off. That's just the water for the rice. I don't have my rice in yet. I'm going to do that when I add the chicken. Okay. So, I've already opened my cans, or they're jars, but when you can, it's canned. So, I'm going to add this in. And you just take your spatula and work that around the bottom to make sure that it gets anything that could have been sticking to your pot. That's why I hold everything. I don't know who designed this, but yeah. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm only doing it in portions only because I don't want this to clump up. It's kind of like, we're making a roux, basically. This will thicken up your soup, but like I said, not to stew thickness. So as it thickens, and I've scraped down that bottom to make sure that nothing's sticking, I go in with the rest of this one. And the next time I make chicken broth and I can that up, I will do a video for anybody that's interested. So that's good and combined. I'll let that cook for just a minute. I do not skim all of the fat off of my broth. I don't see a point in it. It adds flavor. For those that do sit slowly pour their broth through 3 or 4 layers of cheesecloth and strainer. And yeah, I'm not doing that. And, you know, my mama still cans, my mama still cans, I can, and my great-grandmother canned. Nobody ever got sick. Just saying, in case you're curious. So, rather than reference a book, I do tend to, you know, call up my mom and be like, hey, this is what's happening. How do I do this? Do I follow this or what? So, that's what I do. You will obviously do whatever makes you comfortable, but I can definitely show you the way that I do it the next time. Because I do order, you can actually just go grab yourself a whole chicken and then just take and process the chicken, get your meat off of it, and there you go. The bones is what you want. That way you have a nice, thick, not too thick, but you have a nice flavorful broth, okay? Use those bones, you get more flavor. Alright, that is all in, and this will heat. I'm going to turn my heat up to about a medium high. And those veggies I showed you earlier, I'm going to go ahead and drop these in. And that is everything that I told you about earlier. There we go. The broccoli, I will wait until like the last 5 minutes. I'm telling you, that dehydrated broccoli cooks so fast. And if you wanted to dehydrate your own broccoli, you will do it the exact same way I showed you how to do those carrots. Blanch you cut it to the size you want. I try to use the whole stalk of broccoli because it's all good. It all tastes really good. You got a lot of vitamins and nutrients in that. So you'll blanch your broccoli for 3 minutes, put it in a cold, ice cold water bath, and let that set until it completely finishes cooling, and then you'll just put those on your tray, put that in the dehydrator, same temperature as pretty much everything else. Your 40 degrees Celsius, or I think that's around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and you'll let it go. Depending on how thick your broccoli is, because I usually cut mine into like bite sizes with the stem and stuff still on there. That usually takes me anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. So you'll know because, like I've told you before, you test it after you cook, it's dehydrated for, let's say you go 10 hours, you pull it, you let it cool down just a little bit, you grab your broccoli up. If it flexes, if it bends, it's not done. It needs to keep going. If it breaks, then that's done. And I always start with testing the thickest piece on my tray, and then I just randomly pick some pieces on each tray to make sure. Because the last thing you want is to test one and think it's all done, and it's not. Because all dehydrators are different. Some, they do better on the front than they do the back. Some do better below than they do on top. So it's all in the dehydrator that you buy. Anyway, enough on dehydrating. So, I want this to come up to a boil. As soon as it does that, I'm going to drop my chicken in one at a time. I don't want to splash it, so I'm not going to dump it. So, as soon as it starts boiling, I will drop that in, and then we'll be back. So, I have my water going again for my rice. And then, I think you can see we are starting to bubble. Oops. So, now I'm going to drop my chicken in. Okay? Sorry. One at a time. We're just going to put that right in there. And then you want this to cook. I'm going to set my timer for 18 minutes. With the lid. So in 18 minutes, that chicken is done. I'll pull it out, put it on a cutting board, and I've done a video showing you how to shred chicken. I'm going to shred it the exact same way, and then I'm going to put it back in the pot. When I put it back in the pot, actually when I pull it, I'm going to put my broccoli and my garlic in. Okay? And as soon as this starts bubbling, I already have 3/4 cup of rice measured out. So that will go in as soon as that's done. Sorry, as soon as it's done, it started boiling. Country people, right? We talk different. Alright, we'll be back. In case you were ever wondering, it's because I've got cabinet doors right here. They're very close to everything else. That's what you see whenever I am back here. I apologize when I don't catch it. Alright, just wanted you to know. Just wanted to take another second just to say one thing. Anytime you're doing chicken, this is specifically for chicken because that's what I'm doing. Always make sure you take its temperature. To make sure that your chicken is done, you want 165 degrees. And that's Fahrenheit. And you want to do that. You want to hit the center of the thickest part of your chicken. So, if this were my chicken breast, I want to go right there. Right in that middle. Because if you go too far down, then you could be reading your pot. And what I normally do is I take a fork, I lift the chicken up, and then I insert this right into that fat part. The thickest part of your breast or whatever chicken you're doing. And you're looking for 165 degrees Fahrenheit or 74 degrees Celsius. Okay? And if you get one of these, it's got it on there both in Fahrenheit and in Celsius. So it's handy dandy. And I have a feeling this is going to be another 20-minute video. I do apologize, but I'll tell you what, I show you. I don't edit. You see exactly what's going on. I may pause, but I can promise you there's nothing going on other than dishes. I do dishes in between, get everything washed, cleaned up. That way it's less to do later. Alright? Anywho, I thought I'd give you that just in case somebody out there is new to cooking and did not know that. Okay? So once this hits 165 degrees, it usually takes about 18 minutes in boiling water, or in this case, boiling broth. And then I'll take it out, shred it, and then add it back in. When I pull the chicken, I will go ahead and add in my dehydrated broccoli that I showed you earlier. And I'll add in that 1 tablespoon of the frozen garlic. And you can do that also yourself. You literally just take and I put a whole bunch of garlic into a chopper, chop that up, and then you just spoon that in tightly into a ice cube tray. Now I always put a G on the ice cube tray so that way I know that's just for garlic. Because I promise you, you don't want to put water in there to get ice and then wonder why your drink has a garlicky flavor to it. So just, do something like that. And then when it's done, you just take and put all your garlic into an airtight container. Or I use freezer bags into the freezer so that you can make sure that you try to avoid those, the ice crystals, the freezer burn that goes along with anything in the freezer. But that's why I vacuum seal. And the next time I vacuum seal, I'll show you that as well. Alright, I'll bring you back. When your chicken is hot and you need to shred it without burning your hands, I suggest using 2 forks. You can use them to work together. And then all you'll do is use them when you have to accidentally pull off the big chunks. You use the 2 forks together to continue shredding that chicken so that you don't burn your hands. This is just what I do. There may be somebody out there that says, no, don't do it like that, but I'm showing you how I do things. Okay? So I thought I'd give you that in case you do watch the other video and you're like, well, she's doing it by hand. That's because that chicken had cooled off to where I could handle it. This is for a soup that I don't want this to cool off because I need that to, finish cooking. I've got my broccoli in there. My garlic's been put in there just now. And so I'm just finishing this up. Okay? So this chicken will go in. And then I'm only going to give it a few minutes. Help it kind of take in some more of the flavor to the inside of the actual chicken. Now that I've shredded it. And then that's it. Put some of the rice into your bowl. Pour your soup over your rice. And you have chicken and rice soup. You can add some heavy cream to this. Sorry, in the UK, heavy cream is called double cream. So for those of you out there like, what is she talking about? Talking about the double cream. So US heavy cream. If you want a creamier style soup, add yourself about 1/4 cup, maybe 1/2 cup. I mean, it's up to you. I'm not adding it. I don't want to this. I don't need a creamier soup. But I do need something that lasts for 2 days because Tuesdays is always a very full day, which is why you'll see a lot of what I call 2-night meals that are done on Mondays. Alright, I hope that you make this, okay? I really do. I hope that you like it or love it. If you don't, then I hope you find the recipe that's out there for you. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day.